Palais!
Something about small towns. You have to be who you are. I'm Carl Alberg, Chief of Police.
How are your murders?
Unsolved. Everyone confesses sooner or later to somebody. I just thought there might be something you'd like to tell me.
Well, you thought wrong, Sonny.
I can always tell when somebody's lying to me.
Hello and welcome to day 3, the final day of telecast live from the Palais. Over the next few hours, we're broadcasting live from Cannes, meeting the movers and shakers of the international TV industry at MIPCOM, the world's biggest content market, this year celebrating its 40th anniversary. My guests today include the wits Virginia Mousselet as she shares the trending TV formats and fiction from around the world. Andy Fry is coming up from MIPCOM News as he rounds up the latest breaking stories from the Quasset, and Matt Campion and Peter Cowley from UK indie Spirit Studios. Plus, we're going to take another look at our interview with Guns N' Roses guitar legend Slash. Thank you to our partner MIPCOM and our sponsors ITV Studios and Shooting in Spain, a brand of iSex Invest in Spain, for making the shows possible. If you're watching from here in Cannes or wherever you are in the world, we'd love you to get involved too. Make sure you hit subscribe or follow or whichever platform you're watching on and leave a comment. Okay, first up on today's show, Matt Campion and Peter Cowley from UK Indie Spirit Studios, a Channel 4-backed indie who are one of the leading UK companies whose digital-first business might give us some pointers towards what a next-generation indie might look like in the new content landscape. Peter, Matt, how are you doing?
We're great.
Good to have you on the show.
Yeah, it's our first time back at MIP for 5 years, I think.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Now, we're going to talk all about your business, and we're going to talk about some of the recent developments, but also maybe a jumping off point is a conversation we had both with Guy Bisson at Ampere Analysis, but also Evan Shapiro, who was on the show yesterday, and he was talking about the media apocalypse and this death of commissioning and, you know, what maybe the new TV industry landscape is going to look like. So, but first of all, tell us about Spirit, because you two have worked together, haven't you, since Endemol Shine days, is that right?
Yeah, well, even before the Shine bit got added to Endemol, we worked together, 16, 17 years ago, as, I guess, digital, or in those days they called it interactive media, grew out of television production companies like Endemol to extend their IP into, firstly, digital spaces. Obviously, shows like Big Brother were the pioneers of some of that, and latterly into social. And obviously now those shows go everywhere around the world, on every platform. And I guess that's what's coming out of the research, isn't it? That audiences are choosing the places they want to watch the content as it gets distributed everywhere.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the trick is going to be making sure your content is in the places where people are watching, rather than the gatekeepers demanding people come to watch them on whatever channel or network they're on.
Absolutely. And I think, Matt and I, from day one, felt that the next generation producer model needed to be good at both the B2B, the traditional side of selling to commissioners, as still exists, but absolutely research is showing that it's changing, but also to go direct to the consumer. Obviously, platforms like YouTube have done that for years. Now podcasts, a big part of our business at Spirit, are more B2C focused. So that aspect of not only being a good producer, but understanding the audience, the data, and marketing it, let alone making the money out of it, is really important to our business model. So that mix of B2B, great relationships with broadcasters, distributors, brands, and the B2C, and understanding their changes, is at the core of what we do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna come back to data in a minute, because data is kind of a scary thing to a creative producer. I think it's not something that they're necessarily comfortable with, and they think spreadsheets. I don't know. I do, but So give us an idea of what you do then, Matt, at Spirit Studios, because I know you work in branded content and some other areas. So give us a sense of what sort of content you produce.
First of all, we don't make content; we make content with Spirit. Just had to get a little tagline in there. We run 4 studios, so we make television, we make podcasts, all video based. We make branded content, branded entertainment, and then we also own and operate a couple of our own social media platforms. And but we have this vision that actually, I think, to what you said at the beginning, which is creating content for audiences where they want it. That is very much our belief. So as a modern day producer, in order to survive and actually thrive, you've got to be able to create IP that can split across those studios. So a good example of that is we might bring in a factual show. In fact, we've got one that we're working on at the moment, a show called, started out as a Channel 4 digital documentary series, 10-minute episodes. We made 10 of them for Channel 4's YouTube channel. We then have been turning that into a podcast, and we are now selling that as a long-form TV series, which is looking very promising. So you take one piece of IP, and then you monetize it in different ways. And I think for us in particular, the industry is. I can see that there's a lot of worry and a lot of change and a lot of pessimism in the industry at the moment. But for us, this is exactly why we set up in the first place. So for us, it's actually an exciting time. I kind of there's a sort of a real energy in our business at the moment to be able to create ideas and know that we will get them made because we're finding different routes to market than the traditional route.
Yeah. Or you're making them yourself, or you're working with other commissioners in different ways to do that. So we'll come back to that in a second. So Peter, how long's it taken you to get to this point? Because I guess any traditional indie who are used to working in the UK for Channel 4 or BBC or Channel 5, for example, and relying on their factual commissions coming from those broadcasters, they may be looking at the digital first world thinking, we better get our skates on. We better, better move into this market. First of all, how long's it taken you to get to the position where you are now? And secondly, is it too late, do you think, for other indies to join the digital first revolution?
Well, I think, like all entrepreneurs, we always worry whether we were too early to market. We've been going over 10 years now. And we began with that model of extending existing TV IP into digital and social spaces, and then sort of pivoted into creating our own IP for all of those, as Matt has so eloquently described. I would say it's not too late for others to follow, but you do need to get your skates on. I think really interesting news in the press the last couple of weeks. ITV set up a new digital label, Zoo 55. Some of their TV studios are closing down at the same time or being absorbed into the rest of ITV studios. So for a company as big as ITV, and obviously they're quite a cautious broadcaster compared to a Channel 4 or BBC who are funded slightly differently, for them to do it, we are absolutely at the tipping point. Maybe slightly beyond the tipping point, and that's good business for ITV in many ways. But I think producers do need to look at this area. They can't do everything we've done. We've spent 10 years sort of building that up. But beginning to look into diversified revenue streams, even beyond the distributor-led ones that most producers will have. But it is hard, and we know it's hard for traditional producers to move out that B2B model of dealing with a commissioner or a distributor into the other areas of even branded content, which is different again, let alone the B2C stuff. But I think they've all got to begin looking at these new revenue streams and routes to market for their ideas for them to survive, because the audience decides. We've seen YouTube stats from stats that have been on this show here describe that YouTube's bigger than telly now, particularly in the UK, but worldwide. YouTube's changing their UI on their app so you can watch content on television screens in a way that's much more like Netflix rather than on your mobile. These big US tech companies who are in content, and we know there are loads of them, there is a danger against the broadcasters. They could hoover up and get the audience first. I know the UK broadcasters are worried about their positioning on these connected TVs, but the broadcasters aren't producers. The producers actually could have huge opportunities if they grab them for these changes. Chaos creates opportunity sometimes, I think, and if you are dealing with Apple or Samsung or YouTube or understanding how those platforms work, whether it be short form, long form content, get on the train now. It is leaving.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Matt, what skills do you need then? I mean, I know, but also not only skills, but what other aspects of your business do you need to change? Because I know you've got a studio, haven't you? Your own studio in London. That's got to be probably the first point of call, isn't it? Is creating your own studio, having your own equipment, and being able to create that content as cheaply as possible, and
maintain the quality though, cheap and good.
Yes, cheap and good, and that's very much going to be, the watchword of digital first, isn't it? It's being able to produce for many different platforms and slice and dice these different pieces of content from that central IP. So, what are the other skills do you think that a perhaps more traditional indie producer might need for to survive in this new content landscape?
And it's not just spreadsheets.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, a lot of it's very dark arts, and I'd have to kill you if I. No, you're right. Well, the skills are there's a lot of different skills. I think if you look at our business, we are used to making television, so we bring a level of production value. And I think that is important now in the growing digital market, because you've really got to stand out in a crowded marketplace. So long of the days where digital was cheaper and a bit more, quick editing and all that kind of sort of lo-fi feel, which I think was we used to battle against a lot in the early days. These days, all you're doing now is you're seeing people really enter this market. And it's the production values are getting better and better.
So it's premium content
premium
we're talking
content,
about.
yeah. Then you need to have internally, like we do. You've got to have things like social media experts that can do data. And you mentioned data. I love data as a creative. It gives you insight. It tells you. It leads you to what you should be creating. And
but you need that person to be able to, analyse that data, because data can tell you many different things if you want it to, right?
And actually, people are, AI is a big thing on the agenda now, right? But we're using a lot of AI, not in a way that I saw that ITV were criticised this week in the press, were saying they were going to use it creatively, and a lot of producers there was a backlash, and I just thought, well, I just don't know why, because it's what we're not saying is that AI is going to just suddenly make the programs and create everything that's involved in it. It still takes the human creativity to prompt it and to build it and to kind of shape it. What it's doing is helping with productivity. And enhancing things. So actually lean into those things. I also think that you've got to have the skill set of, it's a bit like when I first started in the industry a long time ago, multi-skilled operators was a thing, MSOs. And it's kind of like that in the digital space, where you've got to have people that know how to light, shoot, edit, produce, all those kind of things, because actually what you're trying to do is get economies of scale. So you're right, we did, one of the things that we did when Channel 4 invested in us 3 years ago was we used some of that investment to build our own studio. We've got a multi-camera studio, we've got a lighting grid, we've got sort of multi-vision mixer, sound desk. We have the full capability of creating high quality chat shows that can be podcasts, can be TV shows. We use the studio for our factual documentaries, some talking heads, those kind of things. So actually having a space and a team that is sort of like a factory, but a creative factory, allows you to create ongoing content and pump this stuff out. And then my job more specifically becomes going and selling that creative to try and find money to extend it across the other studios. Can we turn it into a TV show? Can we turn it into a podcast? Can we turn it into a digital product? So I think it's not an easy move in, but it's one of those things that does take investment and it does take expertise. But it's like Peter said, you've got to get on the train because it's leaving the station. It's like that is going to be the future of content.
Do you think that the average next generation indie is going to have a smaller headcount than a traditional factual producer? Do you think?
I'd say probably not, because I think if you look at the traditional indie model, you don't have that many people on staff, and it's a lot of freelancers. Where it might change over time. As the money shifts, it might change. It might become more like, I think I was saying to you earlier on, TV is dead, long live TV. It's just moved home. It's kind of, and got a new mortgage. And so the money shifted. And so and we're seeing it a lot, aren't we? In our business, we're seeing, we've done more branded content this year. We've done more digital than we've ever done before this year. We've done more TV than we've ever done this year, actually. But that's because of the model allowing us to create stuff through digital and then work with distributors and pre-sales and all that kind of stuff to help us get TV series in a different way.
So those are not necessarily traditional commissions. They are, you talked about outsmarting earlier on, which is, you said, a 10 by 10 minute, I think, series for Channel 4.
Yep.
And now you've actually, at that point of shooting, you actually shot long form content.
We did. We prepped.
And so,
and for the podcast as well.
Right. Okay. So you all of that content's in the can. So you bring on a distribution partner such as Quintus.
Yep.
And now they're taking it out as a long form traditional series as an acquisition.
Yep.
To networks around
and
the world.
the key to that, and you've sort of hinted at it, is we went into shooting the 10 by 10 minutes with a view that it would become a podcast and TV show, and shot enough content to be able to do that. It's obviously very hard if you only shoot it for YouTube to come back.
Yes.
You'll have more to shoot and more cost. So getting your head around the economy, I'll say the word again, the economics of making content in this way, I think, is a partner to the creative process.
Yeah.
And the creatives need to have their accept this is the way forward. Money and creativity are overlapping a little here, so you've got to go in with the mindset that you're creating 3-4 different shows out of it: podcast, YouTube, maybe different forms of telly to different countries, and getting your production management team working with you to be able to do that. You may have to invest a little bit more in the early stages of it, but hopefully you'll get 3 or 4 different products out of the back end of it. And I think back to your question about what skills you need, in the creative world, you've got to accept the data. They're good tools for productivity, the AI and all the other bits you've got to do. But as a team, you've got probably work a bit closer together, I think. Use the knowledge of your social media person or your marketing person with your production management and creative. Bind the team much closer together to understand the economics of it, the commercial side of it, as well as, obviously, the most important, the storytelling aspect.
Yeah.
And that storytelling needs to probably work for TikTok, to Instagram, to YouTube, to podcast, to TV.
Yeah.
And that's what the team of the future needs to be. They need to be able to blend that together in a very productive way, a team that are all singing from the same hymn sheet.
So
I think, actually, to finish on the question about staffing, to begin with, in the next few years, your teams will have to be bigger, because what you're doing is you're bringing things in-house to make it cheaper. You're bringing in post-production, you're bringing in camera operators, you're bringing in lighting, sound, you're bringing all that in-house to bring those costs down, right? But as the money shifts and quality rises, that might go back to being more like a traditional model.
Yeah. Using freelancers, as there's a bigger freelance team.
We do both, to be fair. Because we have the different studios, we have a core team, and then we do work with a big pool of freelancers.
And AI is probably going to be that digital assistant play a bigger and bigger role going forward with any next generation indie, right?
Absolutely.
Just picking up on your point then, Matt. I guess anybody watching this who's a more traditional indie, and you were talking about when the money shifts. When's the money going to shift?
It's shifting. I mean, actually, the other area which I think is interesting, maybe less relevant to your core audience at the moment, but we work in branded content, and a number of TV producers do. But we're also noticing the traditional TV commercial producers, their content is shifting from telly to digital, which is creating an opportunity for TV producers to be commercials producer at the same time.
So you're talking about commercials that are specifically shot for digital as opposed to TV.
Absolutely, and I think that money's shifted already as media agencies and creative agencies in the traditional commercial marketing area. Their clients want their content on social media and YouTube and on telly, but less so in the commercial breaks. I mean, there's still a great business of creating commercials in the breaks, but there's a bigger business growing on digital platforms because the brands want to push it through their owned and operated social media accounts or through the talent accounts they're working with to get different reach and engagement with their audience. So we're seeing, I guess, different types of business converging a little, whether you're coming at it from TV commercial production or TV production or digital production. We're now all in the same melting pot.
There's an explosion of brands moving into TV type digital content. So we make, as Peter said, we make a lot of branded content, which is kind of sort of TVC ad-like content, and then we might make branded entertainment series, which has a bit more of a TV format to it. But what we are seeing is look at the sudden shift of things like Waitrose with Dish as a pod, which is topping the charts regularly. M&S is now in with their Tom Kerridge pub format. You've got Timotei coming into the market. We work with a number of brands in that space, and I think what we're seeing now is that brands can start. It wouldn't surprise me if you saw M&S launch as a streamer at some point in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're already seeing Starbucks create their own studios, Chick-fil-A in the States.
Yeah.
Red Bull is obviously the master of branded content.
Of course.
And this is the shift of brands being consumer brands, becoming entertainment brands.
And they're becoming broadcasters. So for to be a digital first indie, you've got to have the skill sets that you can sell to them and say, yes, we can make this content, but we also know how to market it. Through social media. And that's the thing in our business that we've always said. When we first set up all those years ago, we were ahead of the curve. And so that's why we're excited now, because it's finally what we set up to do is finally actually happening in the industry. And actually what we always said was, you've got to make great programs, and you've got to be able to make them on any platform, because that's where the audience will demand it. But then you've got to know how to market those shows. You've got to be good at the social media. You've got to be good at the PR. You've got to be good at creating that buzz around your shows. And your formats and your ideas themselves have to have that integrated, and that's where the data comes in.
Yeah.
Because then you know what is going to be relatable and hooky about your show that is going to make it do well.
All right. Well, fascinating stuff, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Matt, you're going to be talking at the Telecast Digital Content Forum on the 7th of November, aren't you? And you're going to give us a bit of a case study of Outsmarted and how you went around that. Can you just give us a taste of what you're going to be talking about on the day?
Yeah. So, we've talked about it already today, but essentially I'm going to sort of step the audience through how we've gone about getting an original commission that was digital first, and then extending it through to audio and then through to television, and how we got a distributor on board to make that happen. I also want to talk about how production companies can become self-commissioners and self-distributors. It's something that we have an ambition for in the future. I mean, don't get me wrong, working with the right partners for the right projects is always key, I think. But there is a point where actually you could, with your own investment, self-commission and then sell to market to then get the pre-sales to turn stuff into a TV show. And then you become self-sufficient. But on the flip side of that, I will also talk about how that is difficult to do because, working with commissioners is a great thing because commissioners give you the rub. They give you the sounding board and they create the tension in a thing, which for me often makes a programme better. So it's about if you're going to do that internally, how do you do that?
Yeah, well, there's going to be quite a few commissioners who are probably self-employed over the next 6 months, so maybe there's a role there for commissioners as independent consultants.
Absolutely,
100%.
absolutely.
Yeah, get in touch.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for coming on the show. Great to see you here in Cannes. Matt, look forward to seeing you on the 7th of November. You can get tickets at digitalcontentforum.com. Okay, coming up after the break, we're going to take another look at our interview with Guns N' Roses guitar legend Slash and Buccaneers Richard Tulkart as they discuss The Crow Girl, the new drama thriller for Paramount Plus that ITV Studios is launching by us here at MIPCOM.
Palais! Something about small towns. You get to be who you are. I'm Carl Alberg, Chief of Police.
How are your murders?
Unsolved. Everyone confesses sooner or later to somebody. I just thought there might be something you'd like to tell me.
Well, you thought wrong, Sonny.
I can always tell when somebody's lying to me.
Today we're diving into one of the most exciting new dramas hitting the market, The Crow Girl, produced by Buccaneer for Paramount Plus and distributed internationally by ITV Studios. Based on the best-selling Scandinavian noir novel, this intense psychological thriller promises to captivate audiences worldwide. Joining me today are two key figures behind the project. First, we have Richard Tulkart, joint CEO of Buccaneer, whose vision and leadership, alongside Buccaneer's other CEO, Tony Wood, are driving this adaptation forward. And alongside him, we're thrilled to have rock legend Slash, who brings his unique creative talents as exec producer and musical contributor to the series. Richard, Slash, thanks both for being here. Great to see you.
Hi.
How are you? How are you doing, guys? Are you well?
All good. Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent.
No, good.
Good. Okay, so let's dive straight in and talk about what makes The Crow Girl so special. It's based on a best-selling novel written by Erik Axel Sund, which is a pen name for two Scandinavians, Jerker Eriksson and Hakan Axlander. Can you give us a brief overview, Richard, of the show and the cast and what makes the story stand out?
Sure. So the show stars Eve Miles, Catherine Kelly, and Dougray Scott. There's so much to this show, but we've got a limited amount of time. So in short, the bodies of young men start stacking up in public places in the UK. And DCI Kirkland, played by Eve Miles, and Sophia Craven, played by Catherine Kelly, who plays a psychotherapist, come together in order to try and work out what's going on and find a murderer. So over 6 episodes in season 1, the implication being seasons 2 and beyond, of course, I've got to say that. There's a number of themes in cover-ups, in lies, in abuse, and many of these are themes that run through the police force. So as Kirkland and Craven get closer to uncovering who the murderer is, the murderer also gets much closer to us. I think it's the sort of combination of the storytelling, the writing. Millie Thomas, who's a superb writer of the show, along with a number of other writers, in a room with her, the location, and of course the music.
Well, let's talk about the music. Well, actually, let's take a step back from that to the genesis of the project. So how did you first of all get involved in this? Because this is something you brought to Buccaneer and spoke to Buccaneer around originally.
Right. Well, so I've been in the sort of movie and TV producer sandbox for a few years, and I'm always looking for new material.
Today, we're diving into one of the most exciting new dramas hitting the market, The Crow Girl, produced by Buccaneer for Paramount Plus and distributed internationally by ITV Studios. Based on the best-selling Scandinavian noir novel, this intense psychological thriller promises to captivate audiences worldwide. Joining me today are two key figures behind the project. First, we have Richard Tulkart, joint CEO of Buccaneer, whose vision and leadership, alongside Buccaneer's other CEO, Tony Wood, are driving this adaptation forward. And alongside him, we're thrilled to have rock legend Slash, who brings his unique creative talents as exec producer and musical contributor to the series. Richard, Slash, thanks both for being here. Great to see you.
Hi.
Hey.
How are you? How are you doing, guys? Are you well?
All good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
No, good.
Good. Okay, so let's dive straight in and talk about what makes The Crow Girl so special. It's based on a best-selling novel written by Erik Axel Sund, which is a pen name for two Scandinavians, Jerker Eriksson and Hakan Axlander. Can you give us a brief overview, Richard, of the show and the cast and what makes the story stand out?
Sure. So the show stars Eve Miles, Catherine Kelly, and Dougray Scott. There's so much to this show, but we've got a limited amount of time. So in short, the bodies of young men start stacking up in public places in the UK. And DCI Kirkland, played by Eve Miles, and Sophia Craven, played by Catherine Kelly, who plays a psychotherapist, come together in order to try and work out what's going on and find a murderer. So over 6 episodes in season 1, the implication being seasons 2 and beyond, of course, I've got to say that. There's a number of themes in cover-ups, in lies, in abuse, and many of these are themes that run through the police force. So as Kirkland and Craven get closer to uncovering who the murderer is, the murderer also gets much closer to us. I think it's the sort of combination of the storytelling, the writing. Millie Thomas, who's a superb writer of the show, along with a number of other writers in a room with her, the location, and of course the music.
Well, Slash, let's talk about the music. Well, actually, let's take a step back from that to the genesis of the project. So how did you first of all get involved in this? Because this is something you brought to Buccaneer and spoke to Buccaneer around originally.
Right. Well, so I've been in the sort of movie and TV producer sandbox for a few years, and I'm always looking for new material. And I went to my literary agent and asked her what she always give me new stuff and whatnot. And she came to me with The Crow Girl, and she said, "Got to read this. It's really good." And so I loved it. And she said, "There's a guy named Nicholas in Sweden who's sort of her counterpart, Swedish counterpart, and he's representing this book." So I got in touch with him, and we pursued selling it. And next thing you know, Buccaneer came up, and I'm very familiar with Buccaneer because they've got some shows I'm really fond of, and so they took an interest in it, and that's how it started.
Yeah. Well, they seem to be the perfect production partner.
Oh,
because
I was so happy that, if nobody else had come to the table, just having them, be interested was great.
Yeah, of course, because Buccaneer responsible for Crime and Marcella.
Yeah.
So what is it about when you read the novel? What is it about the novel that that really sort of sucked you in? If you
Right.
like?
Well, I'm a horror and thriller. That's my bag, and this particular story had to have been one of the most darkest cop stories that I'd read in a long time, and it has a lot of. I mean, not until the very end do you really find out what's going on. It's a really great twisty tale, and the characters are great, and it's very original as far as the subject matter. I'm not going to get into that because the disassociative, all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway, but yeah, and so I it's just one of those things that spoke to me.
Okay. And now, MIPCOM, Richard, is obviously one of the most important markets in the world for television content. What makes The Crow Girl particularly suited to an international audience?
Well, I think it touches on a number of themes that is nothing to do with any one particular country, whether it's family, mental health, immigration, corruption at institutional level. And those things are always a good bedrock for anything that's going to sell around the world and be relatable. I mean, the key is it's got to be relatable. With any show, and at Buccaneer we always go on about this, any show, you've got to have emotion, you've got to have great acting, and that really comes in spades in this show with the cast that we've got and with Millie's writing and the response that the actors had to that. And so when it comes to how other countries view what they want to buy, whether it's in the English language or other languages, particularly if somebody is going to be watching a show in a foreign language, for many people English is a foreign language, and either they pick it up as a dub or a sub or whatever it may be, if the acting is good, the story is good, people see through all of that. It's a thing of the past now. I mean, Netflix really did a great job on allowing us to not be stuck to a show that is in our own language. And this show originated from Scandinavian writers and a Scandinavian book, and it's translated really well over to being set over here. But all of those points that I make about what makes a good show, if they're in there, and genuinely I feel they are in there in spades in this show, it comes through for any audience wherever they are. So I think ITV Studios will have a very easy time selling this. No pressure, ITV Studios.
Right. Well, it's a psychological police procedural thriller. And there's lots of complex material, as Slash mentioned, within the show. How do you go about adapting that for television and making it accessible? Or do you not? Do you not try and make it accessible? Do you just stick as close as you can to that source material?
I mean, the books are, it's a trilogy of books. I mean, in the US and UK, it was released as one book, but the book itself on first reading, Tony Wood, my business partner, and I really scratched our heads a little bit about how you go about adapting this for TV, because it did need a lot of work. And, Tony, along with Katie Barrett on our team at Buccaneer, went about pulling it apart with Millie Thomas and a team of female writers in a way that it was definitely the most complicated one we've ever done.
Yeah, it's a very dense book.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different stories all going on at the same time, and so I think Tony and Millie as well did a great job, sort of simplifying it enough so that it was easy to sort of put into episodes. You know?
Yeah. And I think equally at a moment in time where the industry is, it's had a rough ride. Whichever side of the business you're on, whether it's distribution, production, whatever, it's been a tough time, and a lot of people are playing safer bets at the moment than necessarily The Crow Girl is. So for Paramount and ITV Studios to see what it could be was refreshing. I mean, they've been great partners from the beginning, allowing us to and trusting us to take this story and do with it as we did, and having Slash as a partner and exec producer on it, and knowing what the music was going to be alongside Lorne Balfe, it plays a huge part in this show. More than most shows we've worked on, the music is a really important part.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the music, Slash. I mean, how did you approach writing and scoring? And let's talk about Lorne Balfe's involvement as well, and how you're both approaching the overall soundtrack.
I was really interested in the score, but at the same time, I knew that I didn't have time to commit to composing an entire score. So Tony introduced me to Lorne. And Lorne's done pretty much all of the Buccaneer programs. Yeah. And so he and I got together, and he really, he's phenomenal. And so he sort of took on the lion's share of scoring the entire show. And then I just started contributing pieces of music. So I would write on the road and then send them to him, and he would sort of find the right, I was just writing to the script, and he would write it into the scenes, and then there was a theme song that that is really good that I contributed to as well. And so it was just, it's such a moody piece, and he put this great bedrock down for me to be able to sort of bounce off of and put my ideas into.
Yeah. So what it was interesting you say there, you were writing to the script. I mean, even before you saw the script and actually thinking back to the actual novel, did you have a mood in mind?
Yeah, it's I get musical ideas from books and stories and as well as scripts. So I can read something and start to imagine a musical, sort of a melody for that. And that started pretty early on. So when I started working with Lauren, I had some definite ideas already.
And has that changed? Because presumably you're starting to see bits of the production now, and I know you've been on set. Has that changed your approach to the music as the project's developed?
I mean, it doesn't really change the melody so much, but I think more importantly, when I start to hear what the instrumentation is that Lauren's doing, then it starts to change the idea of the certain sounds that you're going to use. It's hard to explain, but and when you actually see something, you just start to get more ideas, or there's a little bit more depth to the ideas that you get.
Yeah. Okay. And will it see the light of day in its own right, do you think, maybe one day?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, the theme song is great, and I think I have a feeling that they're going to want to do something with that because it's a song in its entirety, and it's really cool. As far as the soundtrack to the show, that's hard to say, but we'll pitch for it.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, watch this space. Now, Richard, given the popularity of Scandi Noir in recent years, how does The Crow Girl fit into the Scandi Noir genre? Does it? I mean, obviously it does because it's come from a Scandinavian home and two amazing writers.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Look, there are nods to Scandinavian noir in it. I think that pulling it out of Scandinavia itself and over to the UK gives it a freshness, and Millie's writing gives it a freshness that I wouldn't label it a Scandi noir, but a fan of Scandi noir would love this. Yes. But I think it sits as at the end, it's a psychological crime thriller based around a police procedural that is unmistakably set in the UK with international themes. Yeah, you've got me on this one. I think there's nods to the noir area.
Yeah.
Okay. So fans of Scandi Noir will enjoy it, but perhaps it's wrong to categorize it as a Scandi Noir.
Probably as a producer, you're going to say this, but I feel it's probably got a wider audience than necessarily Scandi Noir did. I think it goes beyond that. I could see my 80-year-old mum enjoying this, and she wouldn't enjoy Scandi Noir.
Right. Okay. Okay. Well, let's take the opportunity to have a quick look at The Crow Girl.
Hello? Are you there?
Traced a recruitment consultant in his early 30s, Steve Cooper, no record of any kind. On his way in now for interview.
Have we run the profile through MPU?
No one matching his description has been reported missing.
No specific identifying characteristics to narrow down a search that wide. Don't know his heritage, could be fucking anyone.
Age?
16, 20 at a push.
We should contact Child Protection. See if he matches anyone. He might have just slipped through the cracks.
Why wouldn't anyone want to report their own child missing?
Well, it might be a foreign national.
Could be.
Or could be a refugee, holidaymaker, traveller, so...
Maybe they don't know they're missing at all.
What if he's vulnerable?
Well, of course he's vulnerable, Mike. He's dead and nobody's reported him missing. Right, I want all CCTV within half a mile radius. I'm talking buses, shops, camera doorbells, the works, okay? And you lot, I want you door knocking down Broad Street and Taylor Court, Corn Street. I need a full picture on this. Somebody has left a body in a public place. They want him found. I want to know why. See, the thing is, Lou, you know I'm going to ask to see that, and I know it's going to be a shit meme. Why would you interrupt a murder inquiry with a shit meme? Was it funny, Mike? Was it a shit meme, Mike?
I didn't get it.
Prick.
I didn't.
Okay, let's have a look.
I was just...
Let's have a look!
Okay, Jeanette, point made. Fuck's sake.
Oh, wow, look at that. Okay. Wow. Okay, well, explain it to him. I mean, that's how the best jokes work, right?
Mike, I swear to God. It's Carol Lowry. The dentist who was booked this morning for unholy amounts of child in porn.
Possession and distribution of child abuse images. No. That you were up to speed, Mike. Is that funny? No, it isn't, is it? You get used to him. And if you're going to interrupt me, at least make it fucking funny. Maybe swap out Instagram for news, okay? I want every inch of that bag checked, you understand?
Yeah, forensics are doing tests as we speak. Eva said that the liquid on the bag is probably piss. Well, she said it smelled like piss anyway.
So the show obviously has these dark psychological elements to it, Slash. How do you think it's going to balance that intensity with entertainment as well? Because at the end of the day, you know, this is in an entertainment medium. And how will it entertain without perhaps overwhelming?
Well, I mean, the brilliance of this show is it is dark and foreboding in a lot of ways, but it's cast so well and the writing's so good. It's really entertaining. It's very engaging, and some of the subject matter is a little, it's a little disturbing, but it's sort of balanced out by the way that it's projected.
Yeah.
So it's not off-putting.
Yeah.
Particularly, I think, the characters played by Eve Miles and Dougray Scott, the writing has a bit of levity to both of those characters, and Eve and Dougray's comic timing is very good. I mean, it's certainly not a comedy, but the way they bounce off each other can sometimes pull you away from the dark subjects that Slash was referring to, which, there is a few in there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of personal stories that are going on at the same time. So it sort of gives a little bit of, it brings it home a little bit.
Yeah. So it's airing on Paramount Plus in early 2025. You touched on it earlier, Richard. Is there scope for further spin-offs or further series?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are left with an absolute whopper of a cliffhanger on the end of season 1, and the stories from the books allow us to go further. I think if you wanted to go on and on with this, you could. But certainly it's left with viewers will be wanting a season 2.
And Slash, so after The Crow Girl, are you planning any more TV and film projects? Is there something on the horizon for you?
I have a couple film projects that are in development, and one of them that's about to come out next year. So that production's done already. So I'm still, I'm very much into this. As far as TV is concerned, I was fortunate to be able to work with Buccaneer. It's really the first TV production that I've done.
And then finally, for the buyers watching this at MIPCOM, what would you say is the one admissible reason why they should buy The Crow Girl for their viewers?
Because it's good. It's really good, and the cast is great. It's really, like I was saying before, it's really well written. It's a very well thought out presentation. It's very entertaining. I watched it all the way through up until it was finally edited and everything in colors, and I was like, this is really a good show. So there you go.
All right, you would watch it even if you weren't involved.
I've been watching it just for the enjoyment of watching it. I've played it for a couple of people, my girlfriend at home and stuff like that. Go and check this out. And it's really good. People who didn't know what it was or that have seen it have been like, oh, this is amazing. Yeah.
All right, Slash, Richard, thank you so much for joining me on this week's special telecast for MIPCOM. Good luck with the show, and good luck to ITV Studios with selling it at the market.
Yeah. Cheers.
Thanks.
Palais! Something about small towns. You get to be who you are. I'm Carl Elberg, Chief of Police.
How are your murders?
Unsolved. Everyone confesses sooner or later to somebody. I just just thought there might be something you'd like to tell me.
Well, you thought wrong, Sonny.
I can always tell when somebody's lying to me.
Palais!
Hello and welcome to our MIPCOM Hot Pick feature with ITV Studios. And today we're exploring the world of factual entertainment with a special guest from Plimsoll Productions. Joining me is Karen Plum, Head of Factual Entertainment, here to talk about Shark, Celebrity Infested Waters, a brand new series making its debut at MIPCOM that blends compelling natural history and adrenaline-fueled entertainment. This ambitious format takes ocean-phobic celebrities to the Bahamas to face off with some of the Pacific's most terrifying predators, all while shedding a new light on the vital role sharks play in our ecosystems. Karen, thanks for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. It's a pleasure to join you.
Yeah, well, I mean, amazing show that we're going to be talking about now that you're in development and I know you're going to be in production very shortly. First of all, tell us about the concept of Shark Celebrity Infested Waters.
What makes this show so special is it brings a brand new audience to wildlife programming. So many of these great shows that Plimsoll Production makes and is well known for have a ready-made audience, but we're preaching to the converted with that. What we wanted to do is bring entertainment to this genre and bring a whole new audience. The 9 o'clock ITV audience don't naturally turn to wildlife. So we sat in a room, we thought, how can we do this? And we created Shark Celeb Infested Waters, which is a big, bold, ambitious reality format where we take an ensemble cast of celebrities and we put them cage-free into the water with sharks. But this isn't just entertainment for entertainment's sake. It's got a conservation purpose at its heart, which is getting people to understand that sharks have so much more to fear from us than we do from them. But we're going to make it entertaining so that people watch from the beginning right to the end.
So how did it come about then? How did this show concept, because it's a brilliant concept.
It came about because, it's quite a difficult market at the moment. And we were just looking at what's our USP, what can Plimsoll do that nobody else can do? Everyone's looking for bigger, bolder, fewer. And we thought, what's our bigger, bolder, fewer? And we have an amazing, one of the world's leading wildlife departments. We also have an adventure department where we take people up mountains and we do some of the most dangerous television, in the market. And then I run factual entertainment. We thought, there's something unique. No other company has as much cross-genre as that. And we thought, well, what can we do? And we said, let's do what we call Wildlife Plus or Adventure Plus. So bringing entertainment that. And we got our development team and we locked ourselves in a room and we thought, what can we do? And we talked around the subject and then the most iconic animal of all came up, sharks. And then we developed a reality show around that. And it was very exciting to pitch because people immediately you've got something exciting, an iconic animal, a production company that can do entertainment and wildlife. And we sold it really quickly, which is quite unusual in this market.
Yeah. And many factual entertainment shows coincide with an anniversary. Everybody loves an anniversary to hook a show on. And this year is the anniversary of one of the biggest shark movies ever, right?
Yeah, that was a big eureka moment in our development. We were just sort of, looking on the internet, exploring sharks. It's like, oh my goodness, 2025 is 50 years of Jaws. And that not only is an amazing anniversary for us to work with, but it's really interesting narratively because what Jaws did for sharks was create, well, I think all of us have been terrified of sharks since the advent of Jaws, and it created an untrue narrative that sharks are man-eaters who hunt people down and eat them. And that's just not the case at all. Sharks are really short-sighted. They only ever bite by mistake, and they almost never eat people. So we're hoping not only do we coincide that, but to address that narrative and reset it.
Yeah, it's really interesting, actually, because you always see on the news when there's been a shark attack, even in Australia, right? But I imagine the incidences of people being killed or harmed by other natural animals in the wild is far more numerous than with sharks.
Yeah, I think we're all fundamentally quite petrified of sharks. It's a primordial fear. What lurks beneath the surface is always going to be scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think I'm right in saying that you're more likely to be killed by lightning than a shark.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's bad for sharks, but also quite good for our programming because we're all fascinated by these iconic animals.
Yeah, and they're an apex predator, so they have a really important role to play in the ocean ecosystem, don't they?
Yes, as I found out, I'm not a wildlife producer. We have wildlife producers working in tandem with us on this project, but up to 275 million sharks are killed by human hand a year. As an apex predator, they play a vital role in the maintenance of the marine ecosystem. And it's extremely vital that people understand that. There have been laws on stopping the terrible practice of shark fin, but bycatch, ecosystem degradation, and bycatch, overfishing, and shark fin soup have really dramatically reduced the numbers.
Yeah. And how do you balance this entertainment aspect then with this natural history aspect of the show?
It's always going to be entertainment first. As producers, we are in the entertainment business, and we have our celebrities who are going to put themselves through quite an extreme and very interesting process to learn to dive with some of the biggest sharks on the planet out of cages. So that will be what pull people in. Also, the beauty of sharks is undeniable. We're going to one of the most beautiful islands on the planet with some of the most crystal clear waters. We'll be diving with these incredible animals. There'll also be dolphins and reefs. So it will be visually beautiful. You've got really interesting celebrities taking themselves out of their comfort zone. And then the experts who are setting the challenge. So we've got 3 world-class experts. We've got a shark scientist, a shark conservationist, and somebody who spent their entire lives campaigning about sharks. And they will set the challenge for the celebrities. So they are shark experts, and they will bring the knowledge into the programme all the time, reminding the celebrities what they're doing and giving them information about sharks as we go along. So entertainment first, education second.
And you mentioned the Bahamas. It's specifically shot in Bimini as well, which is a beautiful place. And I have to admit, I've been there myself. Yeah, and
you've got one up on me at the moment, then.
Well, it was a few years ago. You remember when NatP and Real Screen used to be sort of a couple of weeks apart. I had a layover of a week, and I was in Miami, and I thought, well, a 50-mile ferry ride, and I'm in Bimini. So I went there for a week, and it's an incredible place. Extraordinary number of sharks around. I mean, it really is shark-infested waters there. Presumably, that's the reason why you chose it, right? I mean, it's just because of the number of different species that you find there.
Yeah, my wildlife colleagues have said this is pretty much the only place we could do this show, because we want to have encounters with so many different species of shark. And the Bahamas is a shark sanctuary in its entirety. And the shallow waters in the winter mean all the sharks come in. Our head of adventure has gone and done a recce. And as you said, there are an extraordinary amount of sharks. It's amazing. If you let nature be how it should be, the quantity of sharks is extraordinary. And I think there's 12 different species of shark around Bimini alone, and even more in the Bahamas. So the combination of the shallow waters, the migratory route, makes this the shark capital of the world. And also, because of that, scientists have been studying sharks there for, I think, nearly 40 years. So the sharks are habituated to humans. So everyone knows where they are and how they will behave, which makes doing something this audacious and potentially dangerous actually not that dangerous at all. Sharks recognize humans. They don't attack humans in this environment. And most of the scientists know the bigger sharks by name. Right. So it's a really good environment to operate in. And also, because Bimini is so small, as you've seen, it's just around the coast. You've got hammerheads here, you've got lemon sharks here, you've got rays here. So as a as a place to make a TV program in, you don't have to spend that much time travelling. You can spend all your time having the shark experiences in crystal clear waters.
Well, that's the thing that I found. That I actually went swimming off a boat and I saw a tiger shark came quite close, which was 3 times the size of me. I could see hammerheads on the seafloor, and obviously there's nurse sharks who breed in the mangrove swamps there and everything. So it's an amazing place. So beyond this sort of excitement and celebrity factor, like we say, the show's got a strong sustainability message. Are you finding that broadcasters around the world are there's a demand for sustainability related shows, entertainment shows?
Yeah, I think ITV have been amazing partners on this because we pitched it to ITV with a really strong conservation message, expecting it to be a little bit watered down as we moved into production. But they have been our partners in saying, let's keep the conservation message front and centre. And as people who, we're Plimsoll, we've been pitching and creating shows with conservation at their heart for a long time. But it just feels like everyone's stopped giving this subject lip service and is actually committing to it. So the conservation message has been a real bonus. And actually, as we look to take the format out, it's not just British broadcasters, it's Australian and French, and everyone's really picked up on the conservation message. The chance to make entertainment with a purpose feels like a new beginning. I don't think it would have happened 10 years ago.
No, well, absolutely, and we're seeing many audiences as well as broadcasters looking for shows that have got a sustainability message. I mean, do you think, as a factual entertainment producer, do you think this is the future?
I hope so, because Plimsoll's really well placed to do this. And, as I said before, it's our job to entertain first and educate second. Nobody wants to be lectured to. We want to find out information in an entertaining way that means we'll stay for the journey. So, but yes, absolutely, I think we've got to, haven't we? Our planet, as we've seen from the weather and everything in the news feeds at the moment, we've got to start turning our attention to this in a really important way. And I think, obviously, the storytellers, broadcasters, it's our job to do it.
Yeah. So turning to the celebrities and the entertainment aspect, how do you cast this? I mean, I know that you can't tell us who the celebrities are at the moment, but can you tell us how many celebrities there are going to be and how you actually cast them?
We're looking at 6 or 7 celebrities. We're really lucky because we can cast a really high calibre of celebrity because people want to take part in something that has purpose, and obviously aligning yourself with the conservation message is very exciting for a lot of celebrities, but also it's a chance of a lifetime. These people are going to be diving with the most incredible sharks, with the best dive team in the world, with the best natural history team in the world. So for our celebrities, the reaction's been really exciting, and we say we're casting the Olympians of the celebrity world. Everybody we're talking to is extremely well known and really high profile. So
it's a good calibre. We're talking about an above average calibre of celebrity on this type of show.
Completely. And also what we can offer them is no elimination and no humiliation. This is a reality show, it's a format, but it's got integrity at its heart, and we're not looking to have high drama from our celebrities. What we're interested in is their relationship, yes, with each other, but also with the ocean and the sharks, and their journey from fear to appreciation.
Right.
And that narrative has made people quite comfortable. As an ensemble cast, of course, we're looking for fear, but to be honest, everybody's scared of sharks. That's not been a problem. Talking to people about our safety record, which is obviously very strong, making adventure programmes, has been at the heart of our conversations with celebrities. But we're looking for humour, we're looking for fun, we're looking for high profile. We want to bring as many people as we can. But we're looking for integrity and warmth. It is on the documentary side of factual entertainment more than the sort of I'm a celebrity reality side of entertainment. And so that's the sort of people we're looking for. But yes, fear, humour, great banter, all the usual things.
So when does production start then?
We are in full production already. I think we're 4 weeks into production. We've got our second tech recce going out in 2 weeks' time. We have a full team on board. One of this sort of, it's a very difficult market at the moment, but it does mean you can hire really incredible people. We've got the absolute cream of all, the directors and camera people and everyone. We've got a really exciting team, and everyone's revving up, and we film on the 18th of November.
Right.
So
okay.
it's all happening.
And the crew then. So are you again mashing up the documentary and the natural history as well as entertainment? Is that represented within the crew as well?
Absolutely. We've got sort of above crew and a below crew. As you can imagine, diving with celebrities, with sharks out of cages is a very big technical and safety feat. So we're working with our colleagues in the adventure department and working with people like Secret Compass to make sure that we're completely across safety. And then we've got a whole wildlife team who are used to shooting sharks and shooting people underwater. And then above, we're working with factual entertainment format people. So we've got a big crew, but it's absolutely a hybrid team to bring out all the qualities that we need.
Yeah. And what keeps you up at night around this production then? What's the trickiest thing about this production, do you think?
Obviously, putting celebrities in the water with sharks is something we have to be forensic about every single detail. But weirdly, what keeps me up at night is schedule. Getting people in and out of wetsuits and putting masks on and making sure everyone's ready and making sure that we spend enough time getting the content and not too much time getting people ready. Scheduling a show like this, I mean, obviously we have an AD and it's not but scheduling, if the weather changes, if the sharks aren't there, getting everyone in and out of there, there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of equipment, and at no time must we be over-beguiled by the diving and the sharks. This is, it's a story about people going on a journey and making sure we create enough time in our schedule to do that. We're quite generous in our time. We're filming over 3 days per ep. Other territories that are thinking of, moving into commission have shorter time, but it is weirdly the logistics of moving people around in an unpredictable, quite wild. Bimini is thought of as, you went there on a break, but it's actually very remote.
Yeah.
It's a really remote, it's not a hostile environment, but it's a remote environment that can be subject to weather, and obviously you're dealing with wild animals. You can't produce the sharks to turn up. We know where they'll be, we're working with experts who know where they'll be, but just making sure the whole operation runs smoothly is something that concerns me.
Yeah. So this show's going out at MIPCOM, Karen, and lots of conversations are going to be happening between ITV Studios and buyers. So as a message to buyers, why should they buy this show?
It's going to be a super adrenaline-fueled reality format. It's co-viewing. It's going to be appointment to view. It's got some of the most iconic animals in the world. People are fascinated by sharks if they're 97 or if they're 7. And I think that opportunity to sit down and watch television with your family is something that's diminished. And I think this is going to be super entertaining. It's going to be beautiful. So, all those reasons. I think the appointment to view is particularly interesting. I think when you see sharks, celeb-infested waters, you're going to say, we're going to watch that.
All right, Karen Plum, Head of Factual Entertainment at Plimsoll Productions and producer of Shark Celebrity Infested Waters. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Enjoyed it.
Well, that's it for our MIPCOM Hot Pick show for today. Shark Celebrity Infested Waters from Plimsoll Productions, distributed by ITV Studios. That's it from Karen and me. Now back to the studio in Cannes. Welcome back to Telecast Live from the Palais. I'm joined again by Andy Fry from MIPCOM News to hear the latest TV industry news coming from the Palais in our final News from the Floor roundup. How you doing, Andy?
Yeah, good, thank you. You?
I'm all right. Yeah, we're nearly at the end of MIPCOM.
Yeah, we've survived another one.
We have, yeah. So overall, actually, how's the news been over the market? Do you think? Has been as many big announcements as you might have expected and seen in previous years?
I'd say it's par for the course. I mean, I wouldn't say that it's I wouldn't say I've seen any astoundingly big announcements, but I think there's been a reasonably good turnover of deals. I mean, remember this. This is all against the backdrop of a couple of years of difficulty for the sector. You know, of projects taking longer to finance. You know, the big story is, for the last few months has been about buyers really wanting to be certain before they commit to shows, and that can create some frustration in terms of what the IP owners are doing. You know, they say it takes a long time to get deals over the line, but you know, I think it's been a pretty good market. I mean, remember we didn't have a MIP, so having a MIPCOM, I think, is it's been a pretty good market.
Yeah, good. Okay, so how about this morning then? We're on our final day. It's Wednesday. Tell me what you've been up to this morning.
Yeah, Wednesday's a slightly different day. Obviously, we're not getting as many people knocking on our doors because they're all heading for the airport. A lot of the busyness happens on Monday and Tuesday. So I went to a few sessions this morning. There was the final day of the Innovation Lab. So today it was Connected TV. And we had Alan Walk from TV Rev, who was giving us a bit of a kind of what you need to know about connected TV, which is obviously, you know, the big important sort of sector at the moment. It's all about clever televisions and, you know, data-informed televisions and who the key players are. And he kind of reiterated Evan Shapiro's message, which is that the TV players really need to club together and share their data if they're going to compete with big tech. So I think that was one of his big messages. He also had some interesting data to share about the shift away from SVOD towards advertising-funded platforms. I thought that was quite interesting. And also, surprise, a shift towards rebundling, you know, with consumers getting more fed up of trying to go through so many different apps and different platforms. And now they're beginning to be offered things that we used to get 10, 20 years ago, which is bundles. Yes. You know, so there's something which is finally some common sense coming back into the market. So that I thought was quite interesting. Then I followed that up with a session with the Media Pro Studio, which, you know, they put on a good show. Actually, they brought a lot of people. They're a Spanish company. They've opened up an American office in LA with the intention of creating more English language programming.
That's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's actually for a Spanish business to set up an office in the States and to really focus on it. Is that a sign again of broadcasters wanting those safe bets in English language and Spanish programming? Basically, they're seizing that sort of opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they come from a position of strength because they're a big player in Spanish language programming already, and I guess that, you know, they're looking at the global market and thinking, where's the other place we need to be? We're a big beast. Let's get into English language. So it made sense for them to open up in LA, appoint JC Acosta, who was at Paramount, so he's now in charge of that piece. And he revealed some of his slate. So he had a quite interesting show called Witness 36, which he talked about. He talked about movies, and they've joined forces with John Turturro of The Big Lebowski and many other great films. So he's going to be making directing and writing a film about schizophrenia, which is quite interesting. And they're also trying to take some of their Spanish catalogue, including, I think there's a show called Catch Me If You Can, an entertainment show, which has something like 20,000 episodes or something ridiculous. And they're planning to take that to the US as well and try and sell that as an English language show. So it's partly about original programming and partly about utilising their Spanish catalogue as well.
Yeah, and formats basically. So those formats that that have been successful in Spain. That's what, you know, I think we mentioned it the other day. It's like there's huge opportunity when it comes to the Hispanic market in the US, because the size of that population is greater than the UK's total population as well. So it's really sizable.
Yeah, I mean, they already have an office in Miami and New York, and obviously they can now do both. I mean, they're already able to hit the Hispanic market because they're a Spanish-speaking company, but now they can hit the English language market too. And they made another important point, which is that if you succeed in the American market, then you can succeed in the global market, because shows that work in America tend to then get sold back around the world, or if they're not sold back around the world in their original form, they can be formatted. So there's a double whammy benefit for them.
Okay. Yeah. And what other news stories have you come across over the past day or so?
Yeah. So I've been fishing around and trying to sort of pick up some of the ones that maybe we missed when we were talking yesterday or the day before, or things that have broken later. And I think we probably have to give a shout to Traitors, All3 Media's Traitors, which they've done another deal. So they've they're selling the format into Korea, so that's 30 territories now for Traitors. So it's still going strong. Gets lots of renewals.
Can we call it a super format now?
I think we can call it a super format. Yeah. So it's absolutely one of the best of the last few years, and it's created lots of copycats. You know, everyone is trying to get these, you know, sort of sophisticated, you know, espionage-y kind of formats where there's a traitor in the midst, and so I think it's really had a big impact on the market. And then there was another story which is quite different, but still in formats, that I think is interesting because it captures the tone of the market, which is ITV have commissioned a game show based around Mattel's game show. Board game Pictionary.
Right.
So Pictionary has sold 38 million board games around the world, and Mattel obviously wants to be turning its IP into TV shows. And this I think is interesting because it's going to hit around Christmas, which is obviously a good selling time for Mattel. So, I mean, I would be interested to know if Mattel have maybe put a little bit of money into the budget, perhaps. You know, maybe it's a way for broadcasters, if they work with companies like Mattel, to get a little bit of financial support. We don't know. And I also think that it's an example of probably a relatively low-cost game show. And at the moment, because of the budgetary pressures out there, everybody's looking for low-cost, you know, high-effect programming. So a game show like that, I think there's something like 25 half hours in the first run. So again, that's interesting. They're out of the blocks. They're ordering 25 episodes. So they clearly see this as something that can be a commodity that's relatively cheap to produce, and is going to do a job in their schedule for them.
And it's a globally recognizable brand as well.
Yeah, has everything going for it. I think still on formats at the other end of the spectrum, this is a big market for diversity as well. I mean, we have the Diversify Awards, which were held yesterday. MIPCOM has been rightly pushing that for a while. It's the biggest awards program of its kind, so a few shows came out of that. But I did notice as well that the LGBTQ format, dating show format, I Kissed a Boy and I Kissed a Girl also had a sale this week. So I think it's going to Videoland in Holland. So I think that's an interesting example of how, you know, we've had so many Love Islands and, you know, and copycat formats and similar formats over the years, you know, the Too Hot to Handles and, you know, Exes on the Beach and so on. But now we have a format that seems to be resonating, which is, you know, sort of about a particular segment of society that maybe wasn't covered very well in those shows.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've also seen the move towards, in general, sustainability in a very sort of broad sense as well when it comes to broadcast, potentially looking at, you know, education formats, if you like, but are also entertainment shows. I've seen Shark Celebrity Infested Waters, which is an ITV show from Plimsoll Productions that is our hot pick of the week. That's an amazing format in Bimini, shot in Bimini in the Bahamas. Quite big well-known celebrities. They haven't announced who they are yet, but they're flying into the Bahamas and swimming cage-free with a range of different sharks. So that's going to be one to look forward to. So maybe there's a bit of a trend towards broadcasters, you know, being looking for some programming that's, you know, informative as well, rather than purely just entertaining.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, the sustainability thing is interesting. I mean, because that raises a number of questions. I mean, I think the industry wants to be sustainable, but also at the same time, the downward pressure on budgets is encouraging them to go looking for new markets to produce in. So they're thinking, okay, if country A is too expensive to produce in, let's go and produce in company B instead. And to me, that makes sense from a budgetary point of view, but it can also mean more flights, perhaps, you know, more crew getting on planes and flying to different countries. So I think that kind of whole cost effectiveness thing doesn't necessarily align with sustainability. But having said that, I mean, I there was another, not connecting the two, but it just makes me think of another interesting story, which is Dubai Studios sponsoring the international Emmys. And that struck me as interesting because the Middle East is really coming on as a production base these days. Saudi Arabia has already got a couple of big hubs, Neom and Alula. And for Dubai to be wanting to raise its presence, it's clearly looking to get more production into the region. Disney also talked about wanting to produce more in the region. So I think that's reflective of the way that we're very much becoming a global village in terms of production, where things are being made.
Yeah. Yeah. So rounding up then, Andy, any other final stories that have caught your eye?
I guess just a couple of smallish things. I mean, seems to be a lot of talk about film. Film always has been a slightly distinct market from television, but I just think in this world of with so much viewing moving towards streaming and social platforms, broadcast rules don't really apply anymore. So distributors can be in film, because people will watch things that are 28 minutes or 42 minutes or 110 minutes. It doesn't really matter. They can break them up when they want. So distributing film is a new thing. So we saw Dan Cohen from Paramount talking about the revival of Republic Pictures yesterday. That's an old label that they've revitalized and they've been marketing films under. Studio Canal announced a deal yesterday with River Road Entertainment, which again was based around films, and of course I mentioned Media Pro with their John Turturro project. So I think film is a new development, and then I suppose there were a couple of documentary stories. Fremantle acquired the rights to a Roger Moore documentary yesterday. And I found that quite interesting because they've recently had success with an Elizabeth Taylor documentary. So I would have thought that maybe the sales from Elizabeth Taylor, that kind of glossy, nostalgic, iconic piece, maybe encouraged them to kind of, go looking at other projects, and they found Roger Moore. So that I found quite interesting.
Yeah, both have got links with the Côte d'Azur as well.
Yes, all super glamorous.
Yeah. Fantastic.
And I guess you've got Virginia coming again. I won't preempt what Virginia's going to say, but I was in Fresh TV Fiction, and the Grand Audi is always absolutely rammed. It's like it's like standing room only. And she showcased some really interesting shows, but I'm sure she'll talk to you more about the various trends in that sector.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, we've got Virginia coming up in about half an hour on the show, so we'll be getting into that in much more detail. Andy, thank you so much for sharing the news from the floor at MIPCOM over the last 3 days. I guess you've got a little bit more work to do, and then you can maybe relax with a nice cool glass of rosé.
Exactly. Just a couple more hours of writing, and then we're done.
All right. Fabulous. Well, we're going to see you at the Digital Content Forum, of course, on November the 7th.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it. I mean, it's your third edition, isn't it? So
it is.
Seems to be getting bigger and better each time. And we've talked about it this week. There just seems to be more of a crossover, which, again, one thing, I don't know whether Virginia will particularly highlight it, but one of the shows that she showcased was a digital first piece, which is called Descent. It's a comedy sci-fi, and it appeared on an Australian platform called Grouse House. So again, all week we've seen digital first creeping in. The ITV story that we talked about earlier in the week. So there's definitely more of a crossover, and I think it's the right event at the right time.
All right, fantastic. Well, I'll sleep with the 20 quid a little bit later, Andy. Thank you again for joining us, and you can get tickets for the Digital Content Forum at digitalcontentforum.com. Join us after the break when I'll be speaking with Virginia Musaleh, CEO of The Wit, to talk to us about those latest trends in formats and fiction from around the world. We'll see you soon.
Palais! Something about small towns. You get to be who you are. I'm Carl Alberg, Chief of Police.
How are your murders?
Unsolved. Everyone confesses sooner or later to somebody. I just thought there might be something you'd like to tell me.
Well, you thought wrong, Sonny.
I can always tell when somebody's lying to me. something about small towns. You get to be who you are. I'm Carl Alberg, Chief of Police.
How are your murders?
Unsolved. Everyone confesses sooner or later to somebody. I just thought there might be something you'd like to tell me.
Well, you thought wrong, Sonny.
I can always tell when somebody's lying to me.
Palais!
My final guest on today's show is something of a MIPCOM institution. Virginia Muselet's The Wit presentations on fresh TV formats and fiction are always amongst the most popular sessions in the Grand Auditorium. I heard it was packed as well, Virginia.
It was.
Producers, broadcasters, distributors, and advertisers seek to find out the new format trends from around the world. How are you doing?
Very well, thank
Great,
you. Happy
great
to
to
be
see-
here with you.
Yeah, fantastic to see you again, Virginia. And now it's becoming somewhat of a tradition you coming on telecast for the first time on our live
Yes.
streaming show. So for those who don't know, you're a TV research watching business, if you
Yes,
like.
exactly.
Yeah,
it is a business, yes.
Yes.
And it is a lot of work to watch TV.
Yeah, I bet. Sounds like a perfect job for many people.
Yes.
But and so essentially, like I said in the intro, advertisers, broadcasters, etc., they subscribe to your service to find out really what's happening around the world in the world of TV and where things are trending, for example, to give them a sense of maybe how they can develop that and take some hints for their own markets potentially.
Yes, we have a huge fresh TV database where every day we enter the new shows around the world. Well, around the world means approximately over 100 countries.
Yeah.
But it's format entertainment, documentaries, fiction, everything that's on TV and digital. And so they try to find new ideas, new concepts, and or formats or fiction to acquire, and also to feel their to build their own representation of the trends of what is interesting for viewers or for their own channel or their own development.
Yeah. Okay. And as I said in the intro, they're always packed. Is it the same this year? Was it a full house?
It was even yes. It was. It had been a long time. I had not seen the Grand Auditorium so packed. It was incredible.
All right. Fantastic. Well, let's delve into each of those presentations one by one a little bit and give our viewers a little sense of what you presented. Well, let's start with formats to begin with. What are you seeing? What are the major trends that you presented to the audience?
You know, before this MIPCOM, everybody was saying, "Oh, there's nothing as usual. You know, everything is a reboot." And actually, there were plenty of new shows, and people after told me there were more shows than usually. And no. It was exactly the same number of shows, the same, but it's true that we are in a phase of where a lot of producers or channels are rebooting old shows, and you could say it's because they don't have any idea and they want to, but it also I think for another reason is that, and I read last summer I read a marketing book about that was called Foreverism. And forever, I thought it was really interesting when you think of the reboots. It's not that you are going to find an old idea and you're trying to revive it. It's that you want to make the past present, and you don't want. It's not sad. There is no sadness in it. It's not nostalgia. It's not bringing back the past. It's making the past present continuously, so that you're not looking for a lost paradise. You make the paradise present, and I think that's what they're doing with the reboots. It's TV had a lot of great ideas. We had new ones in between. However, those good ideas need to be present and not with a. Maybe there is a sense of the past, but the past is present. And that's also, I introduced the Fresh TV with the image of an old car of the 70s that is being rebooted at the moment.
Right.
And it's very successful in the car industry at the moment.
So it's almost like the reboot of the Mini, if you like, or
it's
yes,
the
exactly. Fiat 500 or
absolutely.
Whatever.
And of course the Mini of today is not the Mini of the 60s, but still it's a Mini. And now it was a Renault 5 that is rebooted as an electric car at the moment. It's very successful. And now, and we presented the reboots that are coming back or coming next, including a very successful reboot of a Dutch show on that's called By Air, Sea, and by
land.
By land. Yes, I always think of air and sea, but by land I'm not really down to earth. So. And it was very successful last summer.
Yeah.
And there is another Dutch show, The Phone, that is rebooted, and it's a current good idea. It doesn't have to be considered as an old show. It can be so it's rebooted with a new directing and new image, etc. And also board games. There is a big talk about board games.
Yes.
Actually, at the moment, it's very marginal. I mean, it's very fringe phenomenon. But there will be next year a couple of board games that will be rebooted or relaunched.
I saw that Pictionary has just been announced, hasn't it?
Yes, so
from
Trivial Pursuit.
Yeah.
You know, there is, and there are a couple of board games, popular board games that are adapted into a TV game show at the moment.
Yep.
In France, there is a format called 1 to 10 that has been launched in France recently, and another one called Werewolves.
Right.
That is a very beautiful reality show, with beautiful shooting, beautiful images, and on Canal Plus.
Yeah.
And so it's at the moment.
I think that was Dreamspark, isn't it? I think Dreamspark may
yes,
produce that
absolutely.
out of Mo Banani. We've had him on the show
absolutely.
a couple of times,
Yes.
but fantastic. Well, that's really interesting. I mean, this seems to me to be tapping again into the trend that we had Guy Bisson on day one of telecast talking about, mitigating risk, which has always been the case for broadcasters, and in times of or troubled times, if you say, when there's a lot less money about bigger bets or safer bets, essentially. And it's also something that Andy Fry from MIPCOM News has also been reiterating, that those familiar formats and reboots, but also brand names like board game brands are familiar to everybody. Everybody knows what they're going to get.
Yeah.
So that's perhaps what's driving that.
Yes, and also the fact that the IP is traveling from a genre to another. For instance, Werewolves is a board game that is adapted as a reality show, but also Netflix this week is launching a scripted drama called Werewolves. So it's, the IPs, the name that, ring a bell, and you know what you expect.
Yeah.
And also there is another IP, that it's not really an IP, but there was also a kind of foreverism trend in a mini trend that we observed. On YouTube there are a lot of hide and seek shows. So, plenty of content creators are playing hide and seek, extreme hide and seek, and funny hide and seek contests. And now there are at least 2 new TV shows in Norway playing on hide and seek.
Okay.
So they call it. They explain that we're still kids, even if we're adults. We are. So it's the kid is forever in you, and you're allowed to have fun, and it's quite funny because they're doing all over the country, hide and seek all over the country, or extreme hide and seek in very strange places to hide in, and so
I can imagine some island somewhere where you've got to find somebody else. That sounds fun.
Yes.
I'd quite like to watch that. And are those 2 adaptations or show developments in Scandinavia, are they featuring influencers or content creators, or are they more celebrity based?
Both. Actually, for instance, one of them is celebrity-based, but hosted by content creators.
Yeah.
So it's really a bridge between the 2. And also, I'm thinking of another bridge. There are a lot of formats influenced or by the traitors, the success of the traitors. And you have plenty of shows that play with this, moles or snitches. And we found an interesting twist in the traitors genre, precisely on YouTube or on a digital platform. It's called The Getaway. And it's a game show where people travel together in a van. And one of them is supposed to be a traitor, but actually they don't know that each of them is a traitor.
All right.
So this is, everybody's a snitch, and
Yeah.
so it changes totally, the game, the play, and the behavior of every player.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So
yeah,
in the
a
big,
simple
it's
twist.
funny. Yes, it's a simple twist, and you wonder why it was nobody thought about it before
Yeah.
for TV. But it's really the reverse of everybody thinks there is only one. Everybody's innocent except one, and then it's you think you're the only traitor.
Yeah.
And so it changed totally the relationship with the people. It's interesting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And finally on formats, are you seeing anything more? You talked about perhaps the influence of content creators and social first formats. Anything else from the digital first world that you're seeing sort of moving into the traditional TV industry format?
We're always thinking that we will find for Fresh TV revolutionary concepts on YouTube, but in a way, actually, you find very classic games, plenty of hide and seek and plenty of guessing games. So so in a way, it's not the concept itself, the revolutionary concept. It's not on YouTube, but on YouTube you will find maybe everlasting concept, like hide and seek or very simple things that you can you can have small sequences, small short episodes that can become a format, but not because they're a new or revolutionary idea, but just because they're simple fun, then can be developed with more, budgets or different settings that you can find, that you can bring from YouTube, for instance, hide and seek in a whole country to television.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so it can be supersized, if you like.
It can be
for
supersized,
TV.
but in a way, now I wouldn't say that it's not. It can be very big on YouTube too. With Mr. Beast is doing huge things on YouTube and is bringing them now to TV. But it's so I think it's not a matter of platform. It's it's a matter of consumption. Where do you consume the? And there was a nice show also that we and that was a bit the jingle of this Fresh TV. It was the Alphaville hit Forever Young.
Yeah.
That was illustrating, the hide and seek or very simple. We want to be forever young and not looking back at the past with nostalgia, but being forever young. And actually, also there was a beautiful South Korean format that we ended with. It's called Unforgettable Duet. It's quite universal. Everybody has an old person in their family that is affected by Alzheimer's disease or dementia. Yeah. And in this show, the loving family wants to reunite the past and the present, living the past as present. And how do they do that? They do a duet with the person who is affected by dementia or Alzheimer. She has forgotten everything of the recent presents, but she remembers the past, the memories of these people they remember. And so they sing a duo with a song they loved in the past, and they're trained and they remember everything of the song.
Oh, I don't think I could watch that. That'd be so.
No, absolutely.
That'd be extraordinarily emotional, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, and I think it's a beautiful way to bring old people to stage, because usually when broadcasters want to highlight, elderly people, it's not really appealing for the young audience.
Yeah.
There, it's beautiful because it's so emotional.
Yes.
It's so well done. The elderly person is the hero of the format.
Right.
But what also, it's not only featuring an old person that has lost contact with reality, it's also featuring the love of a family that can make the past become present, and the real pleasure, the real joy and happiness of an old person brought to television.
Oh wow, that's
And
such a
so-
tearjerker. I think.
Yes,
you know,
yes,
it's like-
but I didn't want to finish on such. So just after I featured the "Forever Young" song,
Oh, right.
you know, with all the public, and
Yeah.
so I think they remembered. We want all to be forever young and fresh in television.
Yeah, yeah. But I bet there wasn't a dry eye in the house, Virginia. I mean, I bet the
I hope
reaction
so.
was.
I
yeah.
hope so.
Okay, and just finally, talk us through fiction as well. You know, what did you present, and what are you picking up on fiction in the world of TV?
So about fiction, we took the the data we have thanks to the Fresh TV database, and we found out. I mean, it's not a scoop, but we found out that fiction based on real facts and true crime are growing, year after year,
Yeah.
and are bringing big successes. And actually, I picked fiction that I found interesting, and maybe little nuggets that are not distributed yet. And I realized after presenting, last, this afternoon, this fiction, that there were a lot of darkness in them, but darkness of course, in the true crimes and reality, but also in the comedies. So I was a bit. It ended, in the middle of the conference. I told them, "Oh, I think I now realize that even in the comedy, it's very dark. For instance, the Generation Z, Z for zombies, where." In nursing home with elderly people, they're affected by bacteria that make them need eat young people.
Oh.
So what is quite funny, because usually it's the contrary.
Yeah.
And so the young generation is totally crazy and scared because of these old vampires that need fresh blood.
Wow.
But also, the scripted formats that everybody's talking about. Actually, also it's very steady, but it's only 4 or 5%, and it's not growing really.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see that they're developed. There is one French scripted show that will go to the US and the UK next year, I think. So it's interesting. It's Bright Minds, but also with this ranking of the scripted format, you see that there is not in the top scripted format. They're not coming from the US. They're coming from the UK, from Argentina, from France, from Israel, and from Australia.
Right.
So it's so interesting to see that IPs, being a book or being a true story or being a scripted format, it's not, in our the WIT data, you see that there are more and more a big IP, the huge IP, it's books, then it's true stories. Scripted format, it's a very tiny part of that, but all countries can hope one day having and Japan as well, being in the top 5 or 6 of the scripted format IPs, and that's very interesting because it proves that the good scenarios, the good ideas can come from anywhere in the scripted world.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting you're picking up on true crime again. I mean, probably not a surprise. Again, that's another trend that's been consistent through our conversations this week. Is looking at true crime, and there seems to be still a huge demand for it from consumers around the world, and that's broadcasters are making a very smart and sensible move to satisfy that demand. Quite as simple simple as that.
Yeah. It's really an asset to have also because I think the true crime you can find in the 70s, 80s, you bring them back to our time, and it brings also this kind of social issues or like violence, women abuse or child abuse that are so timely
and universal.
Universal, so you can have a new take on that compared to what happened 40 years ago, and you realize now with that it shouldn't never happen again, and still it happens again.
It does,
if even if for 40 years we have witnessed that kind of tragedies,
but it's not changed.
Exactly,
Really.
Yes, it has a big change because police techniques have changed and improved. So, for instance, we wonder why there were a lot of serial killers in the 80s or 90s, and now you have less serial killers. It's because now they maybe they can't become serial, because thanks to the...
They get caught quicker, essentially.
Yes, they're caught quicker, so they don't become serial killers.
Yeah.
However, child abuse, it's still... because there's still a big job to do in terms of investigation and acknowledgement,
Acknowledgement. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Virginia, thank you for joining
you very
me.
much. Thank you.
Again, it's great to see you every time to wrap up what's happening around the world in fiction and formats. So, and we'll be seeing your colleague Caroline at the Telecast Digital
Caroline,
Content.
the digital specialist at
Yes.
Telecast in London. So.
Yeah, looking forward to that. So that's the 7th of November. So Caroline's going to be presenting us with all the latest digital first new formats and new ideas coming from around the world. Well, that's about it from our live streaming series from MIPCOM 2024. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the shows. Thanks to all our guests, including Virginia, and special thanks to our sponsors, ITV Studios and Shooting in Spain, a brand of ISEX Invest in Spain, for making these shows possible. You can find cut-down versions of our interviews on our YouTube channel, and they're coming out any minute now. I look forward to seeing you soon at the Telecast Digital Content Forum at the BFI South Bank in London on the 7th of November, where we'll be discussing the digital-first landscape in depth with over 30 speakers from all the major social media platforms, content studios, creators and analysts. Tickets are available at digitalcontentforum.com. Telecast Live from the Palais was produced by Spirit Studios here in Cannes. Will Horrocks was producer, Harry Kingston was cameraman, and editor, and Leon Purser was the vision mixer. Thanks again for watching. I'm off for a nice big glass of rosé. We'll see you again soon.
Something about small towns. You get to be who you are. I'm Carl Alberg, Chief of Police.
How are your murders?
Unsolved. Everyone confesses sooner or later to somebody. I just thought there might be something you'd like to tell me.
Well, you thought wrong, Sonny.
I can always tell when somebody's lying to me.